Hi, everyone. Welcome to Like a Boss podcast. Thank you so much for being here. And I am super excited today because I'm getting to interview another badass woman, which is really rare and super exciting here on Like a Boss because I love to support other women in what they're creating in the world as entrepreneurs, as artists, as creators, as just badass women. So I'm super excited to introduce you, Kelly. Kelly, are you there?
Hi, I'm so excited to be here, Heather.
I'm excited to have you here too. And I'm really interested in kind of what you're creating with women and empowerment. And we're going to kind of go into a little bit today about how we, as women, we sabotage ourselves on some level. So we're going to go into that a little bit, but I want to first introduce everyone to who Kelly is. Now, Kelly, before I completely kill your last name, how do you say your last name correctly?
Resendez.
Resendez.
Yes, you got it.
It's kind of sexy, actually.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Kelly Resendez is a mom, business executive, best-selling author, and influencer. She loves helping others with strategies to overcome self-sabotage and find more joy. Author of the new and already popular book, ooh, that's my phone, Big Voices, is also founder of the movement. The book is called Big Voices, a Woman Empowerment Network. Okay, y'all just gonna have to ignore that because my phone's like across the room. So, and I, for some reason, forgot to turn it off. But Kelly, I want to talk a little bit about this sabotage conversation. And I'm going to add a little more about who you are throughout the podcast. But I mean, people talk about sabotaging and self-sabotaging, and they go to therapy or they go to whatever. But I think as a woman, this is a big deal. We do self-sabotage ourselves on a constant level every day. Why have you started to focus on this now?
Yeah, well, I truly focused on it because I experienced it. You know, I was an achiever and I was somebody that constantly was moving towards goals and a vision. And then my humanness would get the best of me, whether it came through, you know, a desire to be perfect, which was my preferred method of self-sabotage, or, you know, not managing my time right or anything. And so it just seemed like time continuously went by and I wasn't getting closer to where I wanted to be. And so I really launched into the study of psychology and neuroscience and just human behavior so that I can find a way to make a bigger impact, not only in my own life, but in the lives of other women as well. And what I found is, holy moly, it is just so predictable. And it's so common. And so many of us stay in isolation with so many of the things that are sabotaging us. And it is about speaking up and talking about them so that we become empowered to overcome them and create whatever possibility in our life that we could ever imagine, because we deserve to live life, you know, at an extraordinary level. And if we have the power to get through some strategies to be able to do that, I want to share them.
I think one of the biggest sabotage things today, for myself anyway, is Instagram.
Is Instagram just the getting lost in Instagram time?
No, it's all the beautiful people.
Off
the chain, gorgeous asses, washboard stomachs, women, and perfect boobs. And I'm like, I mean, I do bodybuilding and I work out, but I mean, I can scroll through my feed and it's like everyone's perfect. Every business coach looks stunning in white. Every NPC figure girl looks gorgeous and looks like she's about to get on stage. And like, I can be in the best mood, I can be in the best space, and I can get on my Instagram and all of a sudden, like, I feel like crap.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's a really important thing about self-sabotage. It's like, yes, we're talking about our neuroscience and what's going on, but just as something as simple as getting on our phone and seeing this thing called Instagram, does it really make us feel good? And what I want to share with you, and I want to first of all, I want to kind of go into an exercise, right? But I want to share something what I think is really interesting about Instagram specifically, is that Facebook has like a terms and conditions, which by the way, Facebook owns Instagram, but however, they keep them separate. So Facebook has these things in terms and conditions that they want anyone, when they go onto Facebook, to feel good at all times.
Yes.
There's like a feel good terms and condition.
Yeah.
And so if you are a business owner and you are actually trying to sell anything in the world of health and wellness, looking thinner or whatever, you're going to have a hard time on Facebook because they have this whole terms and conditions. I used to have a company like that, and I would constantly our ads would get denied because they said this ad may make somebody not feel good, right?
Yeah.
But then you go to Instagram and you're like, what? Right? So
Yeah.
even though they're owned with the same company, I think there's something to be said, and it's blowing up, by the way, Instagram is blowing up. It's something to be said about self-sabotage, but then also
Right.
our external
Right.
things that we look at
Yeah.
makes a difference. So let's go into that.
Yeah, Heather, there's a whole lot that you just opened up in that conversation. So first and foremost, our desire to compare ourselves to other people and have it alter our state is just, it's ridiculous, quite frankly. I look at it and just say, like, why? Like, if we were all made different, and I truly believe that we're all a masterpiece, like, we are not able to compare to somebody else because we have different attributes and skills and gifts, etc. And so we've got to be armed against that. It's something that's predictable. Like you said, most women do it. I don't believe most women wake up in the morning and the first thing they do when they look in the mirror is say, "Hello, beautiful." Like, aren't you a masterpiece?
Hello, gorgeous.
But
Yeah.
what would our world look like if that was the way that we felt? And, it's a predictable trigger. And so when I look at self-sabotage, one of the things that I coach people on is just really coming up with a trigger management strategy that identifies those emotional triggers, because you are absolutely gorgeous and amazing. And for you to ever feel like you're not enough because somebody else, has probably been photoshopped or filtered their way to this beautiful state that they are, it's just something that we can overcome. And it's just overcoming a pattern that you probably started doing it when you were 7 or 8 or 9. And now anything that's similar, and now there's just more of it. Back then, what did you see? Somebody's Polaroid picture and, compare yourself. And now we're like, it is everywhere. And so if you want me to, I can just share my trigger management strategy right now, and I'll just use this as a perfect example. So
I do want you to share it, but I want to stop for you just a second. I think that that's a huge piece about that is, I think I'm okay. I think I'm all right looking, but I could look at other people's, feeds and get literally overwhelmed personally. And people kind of, I've been taking on this view with my Instagram and whatnot as being real, just being super real and not photoshopped. And I always tell people, look, I'm not Marie Folio. Like, I'm not, and I'm not going to spend 3 hours in doing my hair to do these videos and then I don't have, a huge staff behind me. I'd rather have it that way. I think part of the challenge we have as women, especially in my world, business coaching and influencer, you're either gorgeous or you always look like you're about to, have a Chanel party. Like I see business coaches and they're like looking gorgeous and like all white, and I'm like, dude, the average person who's doing an online business, go to a local Starbucks or a local coffee place, and I promise you, they're in yoga pants. You know what I mean? Like, they're in sweats, they're in yoga pants, they may or may not have done their hair that day. Like, that's reality. And so I think that part of the problems of sabotaging is understanding on some level what actually is reality, right? And versus what people show, because we compare against what we show. It used to be we would compare against the magazines, right?
Right.
And now we're comparing against our peers on Instagram, and other locations, by the way, other than just that. So let's go into that. Do you have an exercise specifically that you do? Let's go into that.
Yeah, so there's 2 parts to it. Number 1 is you've got to create this mindset that you are choosing authenticity. Because Heather, if you show up authentic and yoga pants are what make you feel great, or, getting dressed up is what makes you feel great, it's just figuring out what really brings you joy, not what brings somebody else joy. Because I have friends who love to go shopping, who love to get dressed up, who love to do all of these other things, and I don't. And so just accepting that we're all authentic. And then part of that mindset, that I have, and I actually look at every single day to keep me in this state, is nobody steals my joy. So I don't allow external forces to affect my joy. I really cultivate it from within and really am accepting of who I am. And when we're in that place where we're trying to be perfect, that's when we're likely going to compare ourselves to others. So that's just, whether it's the comparison or the perfectionism, it's all kind of intertwined. And so you have to make that commitment that you don't want to live that way anymore, because it is stealing your joy, and it's probably going to steal your confidence. Now, consciously, you can probably overcome it pretty quickly and it doesn't affect your life, but on some level, it's probably affecting your life. So, my trigger management strategy is pretty simple. And it's just identifying what your trigger is. So actually saying it. You used a word that I believe is the enemy of joy. And that word is overwhelmed. It is such a broad word that our brain doesn't know how to process it. And so it processes it as, I'm going to deplete your energy, get you down, because really all I care about is you breathing in this moment. So we've got to really identify what that is. Is it envy? Is it fear? Is it anger? Is it, resentment? Like, what is the exact emotions that are actually getting triggered by seeing other people look this way or whatnot? Is it less than? Then step 2 is really to identify what preference it's not in alignment with. And our ego is what produces the majority of preferences. So like when you really get deep, is your preference that you're the most gorgeous woman in the entire world that has the perfect body that people are like, what is the preference? Or is the preference you wish other people didn't spend so much time worrying about their physical state? Like, you really got to get to the heart of what preference this emotional trigger is in conflict with. And then step 3 is figuring out your hallucination. Like, pull it the farthest way ever. Like, Heather, you're going to lose your entire business because you don't look as good as these other people, and you're going to end up homeless, or, just hallucinate as far as it goes. Because that's what our frontal lobe's doing, it really is just simulating and hallucinating.
Are you saying hallucinating like in the go negative? Or are you saying hallucinating like visualize what you want?
No, I would go negative. I take it to the worst place scenario. Absolutely.
All right. Okay. So that's in the face of a lot of people that I've talked to about this. So
because positivity,
WTF, girl, what's that about?
Positivity doesn't work. It just doesn't. When we get real with ourselves, our brain ruminates on negativity. It does not ruminate on positivity. So when we bring humor into the equation, literally, and hallucinate, like the worst case scenario of my preference not being met is, it actually disrupts this negative thought pattern.
Okay.
Because you can't replace it with, I am beautiful, I am this. You're still triggered when you see all of this going on Instagram. And then...
All right. Hold on. I'm poking holes.
Poke them.
All right. So here, let's take scenario. Heather looking at Instagram, getting all weirded out by every damn woman on the planet that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, my hair is not as blonde as it should be or whatever. Okay. And then I'm supposed to go negative?
Well, you need to find what preference.
Okay.
So you're missing the piece. So
there's a piece.
What preference, what is your actual preference that your emotional trigger is in conflict with? So what are you not getting? So would you prefer to be the most beautiful person on Instagram?
No.
Would you prefer that these other women didn't look so beautiful on Instagram?
No.
So you're going to have to spend some time. We get emotionally triggered when our preferences aren't met. So the hallucination isn't going negative on yourself. Your hallucination is going worst case scenario of your preference not being met.
Mm-hmm.
So if my preference is not met, what is the absolute worst case scenario? Like, if I'm not showing up this way, like nobody's going to end up doing business with me, which not to be true. So what you're doing is you're just hallucinating to the farthest. So like with my son, my biggest trigger in my life is my 13-year-old son playing video games when he's not supposed to. And it triggers me. My preference is that I had a straight A student that literally wanted to study all day. That's really my preference. It would be a lot easier, right? So my hallucination is that I visualize him being 40 years old in underwear on my couch, asking me to go to the kitchen and get him food and milk. So it makes it funny because my preference is not met doesn't mean my son's going to be a loser for the rest of his life and never move out. So we just need to figure out like what we can find funny in this. So we're hallucinating not to feel negative, to actually make light of the situation that all of these preferences that we create for ourselves are actually just silly. Like if our preference is that I didn't have to see all these people, the funny thing is you don't have to see them all. You could shut your Instagram down and let somebody else do it. You could just tell them what you want on there, and then you wouldn't need to visualize any of those things anymore. So step 4, after you hallucinate, is just making a decision. Can I avoid this? Are you going to avoid seeing beautiful, successful women that are out there looking this way?
Right.
Nope. So if I can't avoid it, then I have to grow. I have to make a decision as I document this that I will no longer allow it to emotionally trigger me. I will no longer be in comparison. I will actually be in celebration of these other women that are absolutely, showing up and trying to make a bigger difference in the world. So we have so much choice. So we get to choose the experience. It's the same experience. You're going to still look at Instagram, right?
Right.
But you're going to change the level of joy that you bring to that activity. And for some people, I just tell them, get off Facebook for 2 months until you're strong enough to not have envy, until you're strong enough not to feel less than. Because when we get those triggers of feeling less than, like we just need to know that's the enemy. That's your little voice. That is your ego. That is not you. Because you know that you are amazing. And you are absolutely unique and beautiful just the way that you are, and that comparing yourself to anyone else is just nonsense.
It is.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, I love it. So what the negative, I'm going to restate it for our listeners, but what I hear is that the going, called the hallucinations are going negative, is understanding how like the ridiculousness of it.
That's
and starting to say, hey, this is ridiculous, and let's figure out how ridiculous this is. So then we could just say, hey, this is not going to work. And just let it go and like literally release it and then start to create something new. I mean, the thing that I want to, for me, that I think our listeners, because I talk about it, is I think that saying things that you want and desiring and going after what you want does take something. And it's scary. Yeah. But what's the worst case scenario is kind of what you're saying. It's like, well, no one's going to love you. Okay. Well, is that really, do you really care? I was listening to Abraham Hicks today and she said, who here actually is concerned what other people think? And you could hear the audience like, right. Okay, why do you really care? What makes you feel that way? Sad. And it is true. It's like when we, especially women, we ask permission. Maybe it doesn't sound like the words of can I, but we ask permission on a subconscious level. We constantly asking permission, right? Not to be a particular way, or, oh, that person's already that way, I can't be that way. It comes at a very core level. So how do you help people now, and sorry, my earrings fell. How do you help people now in working with them to remove that self-sabotage?
Yeah. So really what I do, I'm a writer and a speaker. So I generally go into a bigger audience and teach them these strategies. And then I encourage them to find a tribe or a coach that's going to be able to help pull them through. So when it comes to sabotage, there's a couple things. Number one, you have to have a clear vision of what you want your life to look like. And I would say give yourself, using that word permission, Heather, to create whatever possibility that you can imagine, because we are so deserving. So you've got to get clear about what it is that you want. And then on the opposite side of it, and it's I've dedicated a whole chapter in my book to just self-sabotage, is really sitting down and figuring out like what is hidden in the subconscious, what is blocking, what are the potential blocks that I'm facing right now to actually actualize my potential and create whatever life I can imagine for myself. And most of us have preferred methods of self-sabotage in different areas of our life. So for instance, professionally, I lead from my feminine power. Like I am a connector. I'm a relationship builder. I love it. My heart is open. I'm just completely loving and nurturing. Then you get into the relationship aspect of my life and it's like, boom, I have to work really hard to keep my heart open. And so when we identify that in different areas of our life that we have preferred methods of self-sabotage, we can plan for them. So perfectionism, I started my personal growth journey in 2003. And, part of it came with getting my physical health in check so that I did know that I had the energy and just the confidence to be able to make the other changes. And when I really realized that I was a massive perfectionist, I didn't know who I was. I literally, because I'd been living to be perfect in the eyes of other human beings. It wasn't what I wanted. And I was a baller back in the day. Literally just success was just financially and in business off the charts. Every other area of my life, not even on the charts, right? So I had to make that decision that as I identified my own self-sabotage mechanisms and started to work with more women and people, I realized that there's just this list of really predictable ones. And when you know what your preferred method is, you can create a plan for it. And part of that plan is I look at it every day. Not only do I look at my goals every morning before I get going, I also look at my preferred methods of self-sabotage so that I can see them coming from a mile away. And I'm able to consciously move past those things. So you got to be willing to do the work. I wish that going on a journey of self-actualization was not difficult. It is so much easier to stay the same or stuck where you are. But when you're committed to this, you just have to trust the people and the teachers and the wisdom is going to show up to be able to move you forward.
That's so true. I agree with that. I used to be really type A personality. If people are listening, they'll probably laugh. I still am a little. Sorry, I'm laughing at myself. But I still am a little, but at the same time, I used to be only focused on success in business. Yeah. And I think that after a while, your heart does shut down. And I had dinner last night with a girlfriend who gave me these earrings, by the way. Look, Kendra Scott earrings. And I remember she said something. She had just did an event that day here in Austin about she was doing coaching for just basically volunteer coaching for these lawyers. And she said she sat down with 44 of them over a period of 2 days. And she said all of them, she asked pretty much the same question, what do you want? And these were lawyers. These were successful women lawyers. And she said, Heather, every single one of them had this well, what do you mean? What do I want? It was this weird conversation she had for an hour of what do you want? And that was the only question she pretty much asked for an hour. And she kind of coached them through different things. And so I found it fascinating because she said, Heather, these are these women who are successful. Their resumes were intense. And when I was looking at them, they were not confident women at all. They were not confident. They were successful. They were accomplished. They didn't know what they wanted and they were not confident. She was it was fascinating to me to help them see their greatness just a little bit in that 45 minutes I had with them. They just walked away elated. And I thought, wow. The first where I thought was I used to want to be a lawyer. So I'm oh, thank God I'm not a lawyer. Woo, check mark there. But at the same time, it's I think about the women, you talk about your company, Big Voices, and I want to now go into that. Is part of this process of the women empowerment and where we're at today in our world is understanding that it's more than just people call it the Me Too movement. I think it's way more than that. It is about understanding that the self-sabotage and us not having a voice for ourselves, not even for anyone else to necessarily hear, but for ourselves to hear.
Right.
So tell us a bit more about Big Voices.
Yeah. So the purpose behind Big Voices, and it's going to evolve over the next few years, is really just to empower women to speak up so that when we find our big voice, we help the women that actually are not able to use their big voice yet. There really is a difference between suffering and self-suffering. And most of us have first world problems with, I don't feel pretty enough, or, I'm worried about this, or I'm worried about that. And really we need to rise up because the ugly truth is the state that women are in right now is horrific. Like the glass ceiling, great. We've gotten into work, but we haven't let other things go. So we've got to write new rules of engagement and really just start shifting the way that we are in our power between letting go of some of the household responsibilities that we have, being able to want to go into leadership roles because we know that we're more than qualified, but many of us are just afraid of what that's going to do to the rest of our life. So, I want women to know that when we start putting ourselves first, we will change the world. We've got to end this, emptying our cup to give to other people continuously so that we burn out. Like we need to end it. We've got to take care of ourselves first. Our priority needs to be our emotional and physical well-being so that we do have the energy to love and serve other people at the end of the day. And really that is what Big Voices is about. I wrote the book. It was my own journey over 15 years of self-actualization, and I've gone through a lot and have tried to share some of the strategies that worked for me during that season. And many of us just don't believe that we can have more ands in our life. But I'm here to tell you, you can be a successful business person and write a couple books and be a good mom and be a good friend and hang out with awesome people like Heather today. Like we can have more ands, but we're shutting ourselves down because we haven't learned how to live, differently. And so it's about bringing strategies out to females and just really speaking up so that we can end some of the suffering that we're seeing, whether it's obesity rising, anti-psychiatric medications being on a rise, just women feeling hopeless about their future or sexually harassed. I mean, it's all into one. I just want to help women rise up and be stronger so that we can support one another.
I absolutely love that. Now, is Big Voices just a website? Is it a community? Tell us more about what's the structure of it.
Yeah, so Big Voices right now is just a website and a community. And over a period of time, that will evolve. My book's up there. I do blog and video weekly just in sharing information. So we do have a community of women. I do a lot of speaking to whether it's a CEO group or, just any women's organizations that are out there so that I can share some of this wisdom as well.
I love it. Okay, where can they find you for Big Voices?
Yeah, so we've set up a website for you and your listeners, Heather, at bigvoicesrise.com/the-win. And what we've got some, gifts for you there, free chapter download. You can actually buy the book on Amazon right there. And also, just an essential Big Voices toolkit that's going to be able to help you create those goals and document some of these strategies that we've talked about today in a stress reduction video too. So I hope you check it out. Yeah.
Great. So Dave, do the URL one more time.
It is bigvoicesrise.com/the-win. Nice. And that's what it's about. Like we've got to start winning as women and supporting one another more. So
I love it. Well, Kelly, thank you so much for being here. I really honor and appreciate you. And I love what you're doing with Big Voices. And I just love your mission about really helping women stop self-sabotaging themselves. That's where it starts, is within ourselves. So I just absolutely love it. I'm really honoring you and what you're doing as a mom and executive coach and just as a powerhouse badass here. I love that. And so any last words for anybody on here on Like a Boss?
Yeah, just that you can create whatever possibility that you want. So whether you need to write a new story and completely change your life circumstances, or you just need to change the way that you feel about your circumstances, it is possible because we are so powerful. We just have to override some of the pattern thinking that we've had that doesn't serve us anymore. So you just got to make that decision and move forward. So hopefully you check out the book and get moving on that.
I love it. That's very true. All right, everyone, this is Heather Havenwood. You check us out, of course, on iTunes, iHeart, Spotify, everywhere else. Just go to all those places and type in Heather Havenwood Like a Boss or The Win, either one. And again, check us out. Please, 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 please share this show with friends, loved ones, other badass women in your life because it's very, very important. All right, everyone, this is Heather Havenwood. Talk to you soon. Bye.